Well, hey, everybody, getting ready to record Mike in the Midwest, episode 174. It's almost Thanksgiving. Here we go. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 174 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast. You can find me on the socials at Be Our Guest Mike since 2005. At least that's when I've been, 2005, 2006 or so, on Twitter/X. You can also find me on Threads, and you can find me on Instagram. I like Instagram, so look me up, give me a follow. This is a great time to give me a follow because, over the Thanksgiving holiday, there's a lot of time where you have a little bit of downtime on the couch watching football, having leftovers, and you're just flipping through your phone. Some people call it doom scrolling. I call it just kind of checking out what everybody's doing. Mostly what I like to use social media for as a college football fan is just reading the fans of rival teams just go back and forth relentlessly this time of year. Because if you don't know, this week in college football is rivalry week. A lot of teams play their rivals this week, like Mizzou. We play against Arkansas, which is our pseudo rival. When we moved into our new league back in 2012, they took us away from our old rival, which is the University of Kansas, the Jayhawks. That was our rival. We still can't stand them. We sing a song every football game that is very inappropriate towards our friends to the West. To Mr. Brightside, we changed the lyrics a little. If you've ever been to a game or listened on TV closely, you'll hear it. If you know, you know. So that's our rival is Kansas. But since they were no longer in our league and we no longer play them, they gave us Arkansas as our rival. So we don't really enjoy them because they're now our rival. So we play them this Friday on Black Friday down in Arkansas. So we're, building up the not the hatred, but the smack talk in there. But I mean, you got Auburn, Alabama. That's a huge rivalry. You got Michigan, Ohio State this week. You got all these, a lot of interstate rivalries. You got the Apple Cup out on the West Coast, Washington State. You got great rivalry games. What I'm saying, they kind of leave them here to the end of the season. This is the end of the regular season for college football, so it went quickly. And but yeah, man, this is great. This is that week where, for somebody who's into college football over NFL, it's just, it's a delight, right? And somebody who loves Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving is the best. I've talked about this on the podcast. I mean, you get to get together with your family. Family's everything to me. You get to spend time with, unfortunately, I don't get to spend time with Paige. That's kind of a bummer because she works, she runs a basketball team. And unfortunately, basketball season is just getting started at this point. They're 5 games into their season up at the University of Illinois, Chicago. I think they're 4-1. They've lost 1 game. But the good news is they're going to play on Sunday here in St. Louis. They're playing against the Billikens in an away game. So they're traveling down to St. Louis. We're going to go downtown and watch them play and hopefully get a win. This team's very good, though. They're playing. They beat Mizzou women a couple weeks ago. So, but it'll be good to see Paige in action, cheer her on. And, just, kind of a proud dad moment when you see your daughter who you coached, basketball, soccer, softball, when she was 6, when she was 7, now as the director of operations for a large university team. It's still, you still see her. It is wild because I know I still see Paige, even though she's an amazing young woman. I still see her as Paige is 7 years old, just that bulldog that, like I needed somebody tough. So I'd make her catch the game, it was 100 degrees in softball. Like somebody had to do it, and I thought, she's the toughest on the team. Put on the catcher's gear, get back in there where it's dirty and take all the lumps. And she would do it. No problem. She was just always that kid that would out hustle everybody and outwork everybody. And now it pays off and she's in a leadership role with a basketball team. And when I see her doing that, it still kind of boggles my mind because, that's the kid that, grew up in my house. I'm super proud of her. So that's kind of cool. So we could see her do that and that's the day before my birthday because my birthday will be next Monday. So that's a heck of a birthday present just to see your kid living out their dreams. That's pretty, and it's awesome because I am bummed that she won't be at the Thanksgiving table, but it's for a good reason. I know there's, the kids gotta move on and live their life. Right. And I think a lot of us that are listening to the show today have had to do this. I know Michelle, her daughter, was down in Florida. Her daughter's traveled internationally for studying. A lot of folks, when their kids get older, travel abroad and, have opportunities to do amazing things. And sometimes you just gotta, you got to say, well, you're going to miss out on Christmas this year with us. And just, it's hard, but you're proud of them. You're proud of them. You're glad to see that they're living their life and they're becoming who they're supposed to be. So we'll miss Paige at the Thanksgiving table, but we'll get to see her on Sunday in action and hopefully bring back a W for me. I told her that's what I want for my birthday. She's like, "What do you want for your birthday?" I said a W on Sunday against SLU. So we'll see if I get my birthday present from Paige. So that's what's going on around here. Excited because, again, I love Thanksgiving, man, because it's my favorite food. I love all the sides. I love turkey, stuffing. You will see on Thursday morning, I do this every year in tribute to my grandma Rallman, who is Grandma Ruth. Her dad was a pastor from Kentucky. That's why she's named Ruth, or was named Ruth. But I don't know, for some reason, everybody called her Rufus. But she made dressing balls, and she would take stuffing and make them into balls, and they were our appetizers after church on Sundays, and she put them into a bowl. And so when you got there, if the rest of dinner wasn't ready, you could go into the bowl and grab a stuffing ball or a dressing ball. And those were always the hit with myself, my cousins, my uncles, my Uncle Randy, my dad. So fortunately, my wife is very thoughtful and she carries on the tradition of Grandma Ruth's dressing balls. So you will see pictures of those, and they are so stinking good. And they are that bridge from breakfast because we have Thanksgiving dinner for lunch, usually around 1:00. So we start tearing into those around 11:00. I just got to be careful though, because it's almost like a Mexican restaurant where if you're not careful and your food takes forever to come out, like you can fill up on chips and salsa or chips and guac. And that's a dangerous thing. Cause I could just make a meal out of dressing balls if I didn't have self-discipline. Then I won't have time for turkey, or because I like the turkey with the cranberry sauce on top. You might not like the cranberry sauce. And I thought it was weird until about 5 years ago. I never tried it. And then once I tried it, I became addicted. Actually, it's so good that now my mother-in-law actually buys a second can of that Ocean Spray cranberries, like that comes in the white can, and she brings it over. She even gets a second, like a glass jar of gravy, so that when it's time for leftovers on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I have enough that I have my own can of, I love my mother-in-law. So I have my own can of cranberries and a second thing of gravy just for the leftovers. We keep that in the pantry. That's not for Thursday. That's for leftovers for Mike. And another thing that we do, because we always celebrate my birthday with Pam's huge family on Thanksgiving night, is I get to, the tradition is in Pam's family is that you get to pick your birthday cake when it's your time for your birthday. Like her sister Sandy always gets a cookie cake. That's like her jam. My wife Pam she gets different things sometimes. Sometimes she gets cookie cake. Sometimes she likes a yellow cake with chocolate icing. So we have to go to, somebody either makes it or we go get it made. My thing, because it's Thanksgiving, I get a pie. And my pie, again, gets back to my grandma Ruth. She made a killer chocolate pie. My grandma used to make, and she made them all year. She didn't just make them at Thanksgiving. She'd make them like every month. But it was just basically a homemade crust with basically it was like chocolate pudding and white whipped cream on top. Oh, so good. But there's this bakery where we used to live. It's called Helfer's in Florissant, and they make a chocolate cream pie or a chocolate silk pie. I mean, it's super fancy version of what my grandma made with like a graham cracker crust and super like dense chocolate pudding kind of stuff in there. And then the whipped cream is, I don't know, it's like super fancy whipped cream. It's got like chocolate shavings on top. It's way fancy. It's so good that I dream about it like all year. It's like, oh my gosh, when it hits your mouth, like right now I'm thinking about it like I'm dying here. So anyway, we get a few pies for when we get pumpkin. That looks gross. I don't touch that. I think we get a third one because Pam's dad likes like either key lime or he likes something else. So we have like 3 pies to have for dessert for Thanksgiving, and the chocolate pie is one of them. But again, my mother-in-law is so awesome. She gets 2 chocolate pies so that the second one nobody can touch. That's my own personal chocolate pie for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So how awesome is that? Shout out Elaine right there. And that's pretty cool. I mean, I'm very, very lucky. That's an awesome thing. So I don't know if your in-laws are that cool, but my in-laws are very, very cool. So that's just one of those things. I'm very thankful. This is a week to be thankful about everything. I'm very thankful for my family that I've married into. I've married into a wonderful family. And again, I hope that you're reflecting back on all the stuff we are thankful for. I'm thankful for you guys that I get this outlet to talk to every week, get down here on a Tuesday morning and just kind of open up the mic and let it flow. I never know really what I'm going to talk about. I think about the topic for like the last, third of the show. Like, what do I want to talk about today? Like today, I'm going to talk about a few memories from when I was in school, when I was teaching, from Thanksgiving celebrations. But like when I open the mic, I don't know. But this is, that's special to me. I'm thankful for little things like that. All right. So we're going to celebrate on Thursday. We're going to watch a lot of football the rest of the weekend. Hope you are as well. So let us know, patreon.com/BeOurGuest Podcast, how your celebrations went, because a lot's going to happen between this week's show and next week's show. We'll have Thanksgiving. I will be 1 year older at that point, and hopefully not feeling any older, because it's a big one. All right, so let's get to the feedback from last week. And last week I talked about my top 10 dining experiences right now at the Disney parks and Disney Cruise Line. I went from somewhere on the Disney Cruise Line ships, somewhere at Disneyland, somewhere at Walt Disney World, somewhere table service, somewhere counter service. And I don't know what you thought of my list. I just tried to, kind of think about if I had places to go, where's 10 places that I would go right now and just be happy as a lamb, be super happy. So Trisha, my good friend up in Wisconsin, but there's certain places where it just feels like Thanksgiving would be awesome. And I think it needs to be cold. And today I went out to walk Riley this morning for her morning restroom break. There was a biting northern wind as I walked her around the lake that one lap. And I also didn't put on a coat. I just had on my hoodie. I was freezing. And I was kind of like, hey, this is good because this feels like Thanksgiving. But then again, I saw the forecast. It's supposed to warm up to 60 by Thursday. So I want a cold Thanksgiving. It makes it feel like I want a white Christmas. I'm one of those people. Like I want it to feel like the holidays. People are like, I could do an 85-degree and sunny Christmas. I could once in a while, but when I'm at home in St. Louis, in Missouri, I need to kind of have the elements because I'm not going outside in it. So, if I'm going to sit inside and eat turkey and chocolate pie and watch football, shoot, let it be 20 degrees outside and snowing. That's prettier because we have our Christmas lights up on the house. My wife put those up the other day. We have a strip on the front and some of the bushes. We've got them around the deck. It looks great. And I think Christmas lights look way better when there's snow on the ground. They reflect better. Anyway, Trisha says, hey, Mike, I'm playing catch up. 2 things I'm thankful for. Number 1, going to Disney with my brother, specifically walking down Main Street at the end of the Christmas party while it's snowing. And Trisha sent me pictures every morning of their experiences. And Trisha and her brother have a great relationship. I can just tell. Like, I could see them doing this stuff when they were like 8. I could see them roughhousing under the tree on Christmas morning, or roughhousing on the way home from school, like they got off the school bus. But here they were as adults, running around Walt Disney World, staying up late at the Christmas party, riding Guardians. Trisha looked like she was about to die on Guardians. But every day she would send me a few pictures and just give me the updates. And man, I'm telling you what, it made my day. It made me so happy. It was like, oh, it's a Monday. Oh, look what Trisha's doing with her brother. It was so cool. So Trisha, I'm thankful for that. And she says, number 2, Badger hockey team outperforming their expectations with a new coaching staff. Go Badgers on Wisconsin, right? I know that feeling. Mizzou, again, that's why I've been wearing Mizzou like all fall, because we are having just a stellar season. And I'm super thankful for that. And I'm always nervous. 1 more game to go. We got to just beat Arkansas. But yeah, when your team outperforms what they were expecting, it's a great feeling. You're just like, wow, this is awesome. Trisha continues, my top 5 Disney dining right here. She says Ronto Roasters, specifically the breakfast sausage. Oh, I gotta give you a bell on that. We don't even usually use the bell, Mike, in the Midwest, but yes, a breakfast Ronto wrap right now would be solid. Give me 3. I love those suckers. I don't know what the sauce is in those things, but it's like cane sauce. Have you ever been to Raising Cane's? That stuff is good too. She also says Satuli Canteen, correct. Sci-fi for the ambiance. Yes, when I went 20 years ago and I could still get in there, it was awesome. They do not let me in anymore. I cannot get an ADR. Wine Bar George has the best service. I've never been to Wine Bar George, but I did see they have biscuits and gravy on the menu. So that makes me Super curious about Wine Bar George. And she says Tebanito because of the chef's mad knife skills. Yes. You know what? I think Monday I might have to go to a hibachi restaurant here in O'Fallon, Missouri, where I live. It's super busy all the time, though. Maybe it wouldn't be busy the Monday after Thanksgiving because everybody's still eating leftovers. Let me think about that. But I'm telling you, because you can't make reservations and it's just constantly busy. I mean, it doesn't matter what. It'd be a Monday night. It's my birthday. Still be busy. We'll probably record the podcast this week on Tuesday. I got to email the ladies about that. Because should I do a podcast? My wife would probably be mad if I recorded the shows on my birthday, but we'll see. Thanks, Trisha. Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to the squad up in Wisconsin. Len, my good buddy out in Maryland, thankful for you. Says, oh man, love this topic with 10. My number one being my absolute number one, others not ranked. And we talk about this coming up on this week's show on Friday. His number one is Boma. And we talk about Ricky coins a term called the Boma Coma, which you'll hear about on Friday. His number two, Sci-Fi. Yes. Number three, the Grand Floridian Cafe. Oh, man, the chicken there is solid. Number four, Yak and Yeti. Surprise entry there, but it is good. And I do like the ambiance. I haven't been there in a long, long time. I need to go back there. Number five, speaking of ambiance, San Angel Inn. That's a solid choice. I'm not huge on the food there, but the ambiance sells it. The food's okay, but it's very, I don't know if it's like very authentic. I really don't know what the stuff is on the menu, and I eat a lot of Mexican. I'd rather be more like just, burritos, enchiladas, that kind of stuff. Like it seems like stuff I don't know what it is, but it's super dark in there, so I don't care, and it all tastes the same, so it's real good. Number six, Rosencrown. I do like Rosencrown, especially a Scotch egg. Nice ambiance there. Len's picking all the places that have really the best ambiance, and I'm the same way. I love this. 7, the Pizza Window on the Boardwalk. I don't think I've ever had pizza from the Pizza Window on the Boardwalk. In January, when I'm running 48.6 miles, I am going to correct that, Len. That's good. Number 8, the Daily Poutine at Disney Springs. Never had this. I've never had poutine in my entire life. And how have I never had fries covered with like gravy? Seriously, that is in my wheelhouse. That sounds perfect. My problem is when I go to Disney Springs, I always go there to eat. So I go to Deluxe Burger, I go to Polite Pig, I go to Splitsville. I go there like for a full meal. I never snack there. And if I ever got poutine, I'd be full. I'm sure. Like I would not get a meal. But I need to make that a destination to get, because I've never had poutine. And God, that looks good. Number 9, California Grill. I've never eaten there, except I've been there for like media stuff, but never for like a real meal. And number 10, Garden Grill. That is one of my tops too. I love it because it's got really it all. It's got a character meal. It's got a gimmick because it rotates. You're in it. You get to see an attraction. It's in a theme park. You get to kind of see people go by. It's kind of got a little bit of, it's got a lot of history to it too. I like it. It's called the Good Churn. Okay, Len, you rock. Great choice. I am starving because of your options here. And Sherry Roberts says, hey, Mike, I wanted to tell you to never apologize for a podcast that goes a bit long. Those are the best. Next, I thought, thank you, but I try. Seriously, we put out so many shows. I feel bad. There's a lot. I mean, most shows put out like one a week or one every 2 weeks. If you're a patron, which you are, if you're hearing this, you're getting a show every day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's a lot. I'm sorry. Next, I thought you'd enjoy the fact we were camping in Townsend, Tennessee this past weekend, which is in East Tennessee in the heart of Vols country. We're Vandy fans, and I feel your pain of never feeling like we belong in the SEC. We had nothing to cheer about with our game, but we're the only ones cheering Mizzou to victory in a sea of orange at the campground. Yes. I love this. Vandy and Mizzou fans unite. We have the same colors, and we both get just treated like the ugly stepchild. I love it. Needless to say, it was very quiet in the campground during the game. I bet it was quiet as anything the last couple of weeks of that campground. I will say, again, not to talk too much football, we're driving to Mizzou for the game Saturday when Georgia played Tennessee, and Tennessee got the ball first. In the first play of the game, their running back 75 yards for a touchdown, and they were going crazy and kneeling. They thought they're going to win the game. I told my wife, I was like, that's probably going to be the only points they score the whole day. And it basically was. I was like, they better be happy now because Georgia is like an NFL team. That's just going to make them mad. And that's bad for them. Anyway, she says, lastly, I wanted to list a few things that bring me joy. Here we go. Number one, planning any vacation, but especially a Disney one. 24 days until my next Walt Disney World trips. And thanks to you for helping plan it. No, that's you, Sherry, but thank you for supporting our business. Because when you let us get in the picture there, it really does help support a small business. It helps, Mallory with her cheerleading, and it helps us pay the bills. I mean, this is what I do for a living, and it helps us absolutely keep the podcast going. But it's a huge help. Every trip we book means a lot to us, and I always try to give everything I can to every guest, and it because it's a trust thing, and it's a thank you. Thank you, Sherry. Number two, she says, Mom Mondays. Mondays are when I get my weekly call from middle daughter who lives in Boston, which always brings a smile to my face. I like that. You know what? I just get random texts from Paige, usually when a sporting event happens. But how about I'm trying to think of a Paige, but there's no P day of the week. A D for daughter. No, there's no D day of the week. Dad. Now, well, I'll have to workshop that. But I like the Mom Mondays thing. That's super cool that your daughter calls you there from Boston. I like that. I wonder how that started. That's a super cool tradition. I'm going to make sure my daughters do that for Pam. Number three, family night. Dinner with my oldest daughter and her hubby every Tuesday. You've got it made. Monday, you get the call from Boston. Tuesday, dinner. This is family. I love hearing about family. And she says 4, having all my family home for the holidays. That is the absolute best. That's what I talked about earlier. I mean, we're going to miss Paige, but it's for a good reason. Everybody else should be here. That's what it's all about. So thank you so much for your feedback. If you have feedback this week while you're sitting on the couch or anytime, it's patreon.com/BRGuestPodcast. Please take the time to leave some feedback. That really means a lot to me and makes the show a lot better. Okay, real quick. Memories from when I was a kid as a student for Thanksgiving. And I want to know if you have these similar experiences. Now, some of these things aren't exactly things that happen anymore because they're not politically correct. But I know a lot of us are about the same age. And I don't think I know for a fact we never meant to hurt anybody's feelings at the time. And we never meant to be disrespectful. But here's what we did. I remember in I was like first or second grade. And it was such a cool thing is that they put a bunch of tables together. So we had super long tables. And the day before or like that morning, maybe we did the celebration in the afternoon, but in the morning we took, this is how old this is, right? We took grocery bags, but back in the day, grocery bags were like brown and paper. Do you remember those? So they weren't the plastic ones. They were brown and paper. So that what we did was we cut armholes out of them. So if you turn them upside down, you could put it on, you put a head hole and you put 2 armholes and it came on kind of like a vest. And so we made these. What we did was in the morning, we decorated them. And so the boys were, I don't know, did some of us, I want to say some of us were like pilgrims and some of us were like Native Americans, but then some of the girls had these bonnet hats, like the pilgrim ladies. But anyway, we all decorated like our vests. So that's what we did. I don't know if it was art class or just something we did in our regular class, but I remember we colored on them, in like fall colors. We did leaves and stuff like that. And so we had these things on. We all had on hats, whether it was like a stovetop hat or whatever, like the Abraham Lincoln looking hat, or the girls had on that white, I don't even know what you call it, the black and white kind of cappy thing. Or some people had the feathers because they were representing Native Americans coming together. I don't know how you were picked for what. Again, this was in the 80s. But the thing was, it was an exciting time. Everybody got on their attire, which was all homemade. We cut the feathers out of construction paper. The hats were all made out of construction paper. It's stapled. And I do remember back in those days, it seemed like we had an overwhelming amount of parents in the classroom, helping us make our costumes and get us all set up. But I do remember that when it was time, we had a big long table that we all sat in, that we all sat at the table. And we did, because I went to a Christian school. So this must have been in second grade because the first year I went to the Christian school. We did go around and say one thing we were thankful for as a second grader. And I thought that was very cool. We prayed at the table because we prayed every day in the class. So it was Christian school, it was a Nazarene school. And, but I do remember that the parents brought in foods, and I remember trying, like, it was a big deal because, like, you had to try, like, they almost made you try a couple things. Like, there was some weird stuff, like squash and, like, I think sweet potatoes. Some of that stuff looked really weird, but I do remember trying that stuff, and we had, like, ding dongs and stuff for dessert, so that was kinda cool. But we had a meal that was, we had corn, the stuff we learned about, because you learned about how the Pilgrims planted maize and the Native Americans helped them make it through. We learned all that stuff, so we got to experience that. But it was cool that we all kind of did sit at the same table as second graders, and we're all dressed up, with our homemade costumes. And I've seen pictures of it. I don't know where they are anymore, but it was neat. What it was, and I don't know if schools like this as much anymore. It was a day that was an experience. Whether it was accurate, probably not. But what I remember now, over 40 years later, is that it was a fun experience on Thanksgiving. It was something that we did. We got together and we had a good time. And was it a learning thing? Probably not. But it was a way to celebrate. It felt like, really, kind of, if you think about the Charlie Brown special where they all come together and sit at the ping pong table, that was our little celebration that year. And it was kind of cool. As a teacher, Thanksgiving evolved in the schools because obviously you couldn't do that exactly. But what Pam did, because again, I taught next door to Pam. I taught sixth grade. She taught sixth grade. We taught in the same school, and we taught next door to each other. And one thing, I think I've shared this many times, our classes always did everything together. So Rallman's class, her name was Bullington at the time. So Rallman and Bullington's classes were always basically just a big group of 50. If we went on a field trip, we'd do our field trips together. Like if we took an extra recess, I'd always call over and take her class out with mine, and we'd play kickball, like her class against my class. We always did stuff together, like for the whole 9 years that I taught next door to her in sixth grade before I moved to Gifted. And so one of the things that we did was, for Thanksgiving, I wanted to kind of, and she came up with this idea, but then it also sparked the idea of what I had in second grade. We had because we had a very diverse student population in our school, mostly lower socioeconomic kids that didn't have a lot. But what we did, we had different ethnicities in our classrooms and in our building. And so what we did was we had a multicultural Thanksgiving this one year, and it was awesome. So what we did was we took her classroom, because her classroom was always a lot cleaner than my classroom, and we lined up all the desks and made a huge long table. Like we put a butt end to butt end and kind of made this long table looking thing. And then we covered it with what's called butcher table. Or butcher paper, which is that paper that you put on bulletin boards. So we covered it up with that. And I think we made all the boys sit on one side and the girls sit on the other. We did that at Valentine's Day too. I can't remember if this is Valentine's or Thanksgiving. And I think we let them sit where they wanted at Thanksgiving. I think that was Valentine's Day. I'll have to tell that story later. But what we did was everybody who could signed up to bring in a dish representative of their culture. And so I remember I had Vivian, she was from Columbia, not Columbia, Missouri, Columbia, the country. We had students from Mexico. We had students that had African roots. I mean, actually from Africa, like they were not like African American, like they lived in Africa and had immigrated to the United States. So what we did was we did this way early. We sent home information to the parents via flyers and stuff, and they got super excited. And so, the kids that were from the States and the kids that were from Florissant, boring, just brought in whatever. We didn't care because the kids didn't have a lot of money. And if they couldn't bring anything, that was cool, because Pam and I brought in stuff, to supplement everything. But like, if you brought in a bag of Cheetos, hey, you know what? Like the first Thanksgiving, you just brought what you were thankful for what you had. If you just had a bag of Cheetos, rock on. We're gonna have Cheetos on the plate. Somebody might have some Cheetos, Fritos. That's cool. Popcorn. That works. Whatever it was. The goal up was twofold. We're gonna experience each other's cultures in this multicultural Thanksgiving and kind of share, like, what's the history. Like, Vivian was a super smart kid, and Catalina also. Like, tell us about this dish. Like, what is this dish? And like, what's the significance in your family? Do you guys have this at celebrations? And it was a learning activity, and they were super proud to share, and everybody got a little try. You wouldn't get a lot of it because we had a lot of kids, but you got to taste it and got to, broaden your horizons through food. That was really cool. Nowadays, you probably couldn't do that because you probably aren't allowed to bring in food. I always let my parents bring in food. I didn't care. Like, Probably weren't supposed to, but I had a back door into my classroom because there was a back door right next to my room and Pam's room. We were like in the back of the school, and we'd always just let parents bring. I had this parent that always bring in nachos and homemade cheese dip. Mrs. I can't remember, Cole's mom. It was always good. So I always let her bring it anyway in this big crock pot. Anyway, it was a great experience because everybody got multicultural experience through food, but also what it was, not everybody got to have a parent that was that involved that would make enchiladas or whatever. Some kids would be like, Mr. Roman, I can't bring in anything. And it was fine, because what I did was I ran to the store because we had a shop and save, a discount grocery store across the street from our school. And I just bought all kinds of random stuff. I bought Cheetos. I bought, I don't know, bags of popcorn, whatever we had. We just grabbed stuff off the shelves, whatever we needed. And then, that dad back here, here's a bag of Cheetos. This is what you're giving to the bigger cause. You're bringing Cheetos to the, Daryl, here, your Cheetos, these are yours. You're giving these to the cause. And what it was just a way to be thankful for what we had. Everybody had enough to eat that day. Was it the funkiest Thanksgiving meal ever? Absolutely. It was wild. I think I even ordered White Castles, which if you don't know what White Castles are, they're sliders like Crystals down in the South, just little fake meat kind of little hamburgers. I mean, it was the weirdest. The kids probably had upset stomachs for a week after this because they're eating like enchiladas, they're eating like Italian food. There's spicy stuff from Africa, White Castles, Cheetos, ding dongs. I mean, because we had desserts, ho-hos. I think somebody brought ice cream. It didn't matter. They were sixth graders. They had guts of steel. And I thought I did back then because I was only about 30. But it was awesome. We did this for a few years. And I just remember, I hope those kids, looking back on it now, reflecting years later, I hope those kids, as they sit down to Thanksgiving this year, maybe they'll look back and say, what a whacked out thing Mr. Rallman and Miss Bullington did for the multicultural Thanksgiving. But, the goal was great. We had a good experience. I remember sitting, I hope they learned something, but maybe someday they'll do something like that with their kids. It was fun. So the thing is, Thanksgiving isn't necessarily about the food. It's always fun to have food. It's about the people you're around and the experiences you have. And I've had some good ones. Those were two examples as a kid and as a teacher, and they were both fun. But I mean, still, I'll take the Thanksgiving now, just sitting in my house, family gathered around, football, great food, and just a warm heart, knowing how thankful I am for people like you that allow me to do the podcast, because I love this. This is my passion. I couldn't do it without you. And a family that allows me to do this. My wife, I mean, she could say, don't do the podcast, do something normal. My daughter's in high school and she tells me that her friends find my social media, because they're always on their phones. And she doesn't give me too hard of a time. I get it, right? Most parents probably aren't on social media promoting Disney podcasts. And that's kind of probably a weird thing to most kids, but she puts up with it. My daughter tolerates that. So I appreciate that. So I'm a lucky dude. I'm a super lucky dude. I'm thankful for that. And again, I'm thankful that we're all friends and that we can get together like this and kind of fellowship. So hope you're having a great Thanksgiving. I wish you the best. I hope you have a lot of turkey, whatever your side is. I hope you have 3 times as much as you're supposed to have of that. But mostly I hope you get to see your friends and family, even if it's via FaceTime or a phone call. I just hope you get to spend that time and that your heart is full here come Thursday here in the States. And even if you're not in the States, you're not celebrating Thanksgiving, hope your heart's full either way. So we'll get back together again next Tuesday. So until then, happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you real soon. Gobble, gobble.